Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new. My name is Alexa and I am an occupational therapist living in New York City. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the NBCOT board exam. And so all of you pre-OTs and all of you OTs watching know exactly what this is. This is the exam that culminates at the end of your education, and it is what gives you the ability to practice nationwide as an occupational therapist. Prior to studying, I decided to figure out how long I was going to be studying for, and I chose 7 weeks. The rule of thumb, or what seems to be the popular amount of time to study, is about 6 to 7 weeks. And I found for me that 7 weeks was a little too long and could have honestly done 6, but I had already put in my date to take my test, and so 7 weeks it was. People may start studying at different times. I know some friends who had started studying during their last fieldwork experience, some people that waited until after. For me personally, I didn't think that it was going to work for me to be studying while I was doing fieldwork, so I decided to wait until I finished my 12 weeks, and then I started studying, and I made it my full-time job. So I studied 5 days a week for 5 to 7 hours. I would take the weekends off, or I would maybe sometimes take a day or two during the week off, but as long as I studied 5 days a week, I found that I kept myself on schedule. I downloaded a calendar offline, and in each of the days I put exactly what I was going to be studying that day. So I went through all of my study materials and I mapped out each of the things that I was specifically going to do with each of those study materials every single day. I would suggest finding a space that is really comfortable for you to study. So if you had a specific space when you were in college that helped you study, then I would choose a similar study space to study for your board exam. Loved studying in a quiet place where I could plug my headphones in, listen to my music, and so I alternated between studying at the library, the public library, or at Starbucks. And I found those two places to be really helpful for me, where I could plug in, I could let go of the world, and I could just study. The Therapy Ed book is the big kahuna of test prep books, and it's the book that pretty much everybody uses to study for the NBCOT exam. It costs about $90, and there's an option to also take the NBCOT Therapy Ed prep course, which I took and I found to be really invaluable. You can go on the Therapy Ed website and see when they are offering classes around your area. It's a 2-day course. It costs about, I think it was about $400, but it really helped me to put my mind into gear and decide what I really needed to focus on to study. I was able to identify some of my weakest points, some of the things that I didn't really have to study because I knew them and I kind of had them down pat. And it also gave me an idea of how long I would need to study for. So that's where I came up with the 7 weeks. Along with the course, I also got the Therapy Ed book. And this is a dense book, I'm not gonna lie. When I first saw it and I first held it in my hand, I said, I will never be able to get through this. I don't know how I'm gonna get this done in 7 weeks. And I freaked out a little bit, but it's okay. You're right, it is really dense. It is huge. There is a lot of information. So I used the Therapy Ed book as a way to figure out how I was going to study. I went through each of the chapter headings and I found the headings and the topics that I thought that I needed help with, and I highlighted them, and those were the topics that I started first in my study guide. So for example, I always found that hand anatomy was something that it was really hard to grasp, no matter how many diagrams I drew out, how many bones and muscles I colored. I just really could not get it. So I took the heading of hand anatomy out of the Therapy Ed textbook. I put it into my study guide, and then all of the other study materials for hand I would put underneath. One of the things I loved most about the Therapy Ed textbook was that it came with 3 full-length exams, which included 170 questions of multiple choice, as well as 3 clinical simulations. And you could take them online. You got an access code, and it was really helpful to try to simulate a real exam. I had older OTs tell me that the tests in the Therapy Ed textbook were much more difficult than they thought that the actual exam was, and I found that to be the same way. So don't be scared when you get back the grades on the Therapy Ed test. I found that the most helpful thing was to look at all of the rationales. The rationales gave me a really good idea of why the answer was right or why the answer was incorrect. And that was really, really helpful for me when I was studying. AOTA also puts out a test prep, which I actually found to be the most helpful of the resources that I paid for. And so it's $149, but you get access to practice questions, which were awesome, as well as you also get PDFs. And these are packed of information on hands, pediatrics, work, neuro, burns, and so much more. So I found these to be really, really helpful. I was able to highlight them. I made written study guides from them, and they all had questions that went with the information. So if you can get your hands on the AOTA PDFs, I would completely recommend doing so. The AOTA PDFs do not have as much information as the Therapy Ed book does, so I think in conjunction they make the perfect study material. I am a visual and a kinesthetic learner, which means that I do best when I see and when I do. So for me, writing out my notes and watching videos were very, very helpful in being successful during this process. YouTube is a wonderful place to find information, even OT information. And so when I was studying for my boards, I found 2 YouTubers that helped me immensely. The first is OT Miri, and you've probably heard of her. She's really big in the OT community, and she is an incredible resource for all things NBCOT. Her videos are well thought out, well prepared, and well presented. She gives a lot of information in a little bit of time, but it's all very digestible, and she helped me really get into that mindset of I can do it. I know I can, I've got this, and I'm going to pass. The other channel I would suggest to look at is OT Rex, and they put out videos that are jam-packed full of information. They give mnemonics that make things easy to remember and to understand, and their information is so well presented. I found that making diagrams and charts of things such as developmental milestones and Allen cognitive levels and of hand anatomy to be a great way for me to memorize information. So between the Therapy Ed textbook, the AOTA PDFs and questions, and the YouTube videos, I found that this was a perfect trifecta of information to memorize and to digest. I think that any more may have been a little too overwhelming for me, but this was the perfect amount of information to get me going and get me ready to take the exam. Although I was used to standardized testing from taking Regents exams and the SAT and the ACT, this seemed like a different beast. And so preparing for the test, I took lots of practice exams, and I wanted to simulate the environment that I was going to feel when I was taking the actual exam. I would take one about every 2 weeks in my study process. I would take them in a real simulation. I would set a timer and I would watch the clock. I would only take breaks if I had to, and I would keep the timer running because that's what happens during the actual exam. And I made sure that I was in a quiet environment, and that was how I studied to take the actual board exam, because you need to build up the stamina to sit there for a 4-hour exam. So now you've completed all of your coursework, you've completed all of your field work, you've studied for weeks or for months, and now it's getting time to take the exam. So the week before the exam, I finished everything that I was learning new by 3 days before the test. I figured if I didn't grasp something by then, I was not going to grasp it, and I just had to let it go. The weekend before the exam, I didn't look at a book at all. I figured that it was my time to de-stress. I got my nails done, I hung out with friends, and I watched lots of movies. The evening before exam day, I packed my bag with a healthy snack. I think I brought a banana, I brought a bottle of water. I packed some layers because it could be either really hot or really cold in the testing room, and you want to feel as comfortable as possible. I made sure that I had my ID, that I had the papers that I needed to get into the testing site, and everything prepared so that the morning of I could just get in the car, I could drive, and I could be a-okay. I had read somewhere that your brain connects its memories, and so when I was studying for my exam, I had created a playlist that I had listened to all the time while I was studying. I had listened to the same playlist for 7 weeks straight. Not gonna lie, sometimes I got real sick of it, but I kept listening to it, and I also listened to that same playlist on the way to my exam. I'd like to think that it helped me solidify some of the information that was just not sticking in my head, but whether it did that or not, it just made me feel really comfortable, and it put me in a really calm place. I would suggest using the bathroom right when you get to the testing site, and also know where it is so that if you need to take a break throughout the exam, you know exactly where it is, and you're not wasting your time searching in a building for a bathroom. The other thing that I would suggest doing is bringing water and a snack, and in the middle of the test, taking a 2 or 3 minute break just to grab a sip of water and take a bite of something to eat. So I brought a banana full of potassium and really healthy, and it got my mind back on track, because about 2 hours in, you kind of start feeling a slump and you still have to keep going. So definitely give yourself a little bit of a break if you need to in the middle of the exam, because you want to feel refreshed and you want to be raring to go to hit the finish line. There is a tutorial that the MsAlexaOT exam provides to you when you get to the testing site, and this is about a 15-minute tutorial. The thing is that you can watch that tutorial before taking the exam. So the week before the exam, I watched that tutorial, and so during those 15 minutes, which you're not allowed to skip, I took that as a break for myself. I went to the bathroom and I took a drink of water, and I got ready and settled to start. The other thing that I did in those 15 minutes was write on the whiteboard that you're provided with. I wrote some things that were always difficult for me when studying, and those were the Ranchos levels as well as the Allen cognitive levels. And I had written those down on the whiteboard so that if they came up during a question, I could just look at the whiteboard and I knew what was going on. Unless you come to a question that gives you this new burst of information that makes you want to change an answer from a previous question, I would suggest not changing your answers at all. 4 out of 5 times, your initial instinct, your gut reaction is going to be correct. So if you were steadfast on an answer the first time answering it, don't go back and change it. Unless you come across information that is invaluable in another question that really makes you 100% sure that the other question was wrong and that you need to change. The questions on the MsAlexaOT exam are not easy. They are not straightforward, I'm not going to lie, but you can answer them. But the thing is that you need to look for the actual question that it is asking. So they're gonna throw a lot of information at you, and some of it is pertinent to the question, and some of it is just extra fluff. And so you need to find what the actual question is, identify the keywords and clues. You can underline and highlight them because that's an option on the test, and really look for what they are asking. The other information is just fluff, just background noise. Get to the actual question. One final step on test day is to write your name big and bold on the top of your whiteboard, followed by OTR and then a motivational quote such as "I will pass." I found this tip from my last OT supervisor during fieldwork, and she told me that it really helped her to look at it throughout the test, because even when a question was hard and you really were having a hard time keeping on going, that looking at that "I will pass" and your name with OTR at the end was motivating to keep going and keep moving forward. I actually videotaped my reaction of finding out that I passed because I wanted to have that video to look back on when I was a practitioner, to kind of go back to that moment where I first became an OT, an official OT, and I wanted to see like how it made me felt. So I'm gonna actually insert that clip here if I can find it.
Did I pass? Oh my God. Oh my God. Did I pass? Oh my God. Oh my God. I passed. Oh my God.
I hope you enjoyed that reaction. It was raw and real and exactly what I was feeling in the moment, and I was just so excited to know that I had passed. Before this video is over, I just want to let you guys know that you've got this. You are going to be successful. You have worked your butt off to get here, and this is just the little bit of the dash to the finish line. So just remember that you are smart, you are intelligent, and you know so much more than you think you do. If you are getting ready to take your exam soon, leave a comment below and let me know when you're going to be taking it. I'd love to wish you good luck. If you've made it to the end of this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment below, and let me know some other videos that you would like to see. And also subscribe to my channel so that you know every time that I post a new video. You can also follow me on my OT Instagram at MsAlexaOT. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!